All right, people. So I think it's time to move on to the next session, and that's going to be all about thematic networking and group discussion on future perception. I would like to request our chair to please stay back for this session as well. And here I would like to invite our moderator for this session, Mr. Aman Agarwal, National Center for Biological Sciences, founder startup Cycle Bangalore, works in area of neuroscience and drug delivery. Can we have you here onto the podium, sir? Over to you.
So, thank you very much for having me here. I would like to thank Dr. Dmitry Kolikov for initiating very fruitful discussions in the thematic area of biotechnology and bioengineering, and Dr. Venkat Mohan and Dr. Prem Arumugam for sharing their vision about how to proceed forward with biotechnology and how it can help in taking the SCO nations together in the collaborative manner to increase the impact of bioeconomy from the SCO countries in a global manner. Especially Dr. Venkat Mohan's view of circular economy from cradle to moving on from cradle to grave model to cradle to cradle model, and then Dr. Arumugam's uh, vision about the biopharma in India, about the manufacturing of drugs and innovation, and how we should move forward from manufacturing of just being the manufacturers to the innovators. And I would like to congratulate all our young presenters, Doctors Chang Wang, Vijay Lakshmi, Snehasis Bhakta, Ramesh Chatragada, Ovnichi, Ovchinikova Leila, Natalia Semyanova, Banzarak Seva, and Mohammad Zishan for their excellent presentations and their insights into the grand challenges of the SCO nations. So I would like to open the floor for discussion and networking among various presenters, looking into the possibilities of interdisciplinary approaches and use of various resources across SCO nations for bringing their ideas into the forefront for increasing the bioeconomy footprint for SCO nations. So first, I would like to invite Dr. Dmitry Kulikov for having his for his esteemed comments on the session.
Thank you very much. So I have to say that today's presentations were extremely good, and they were from different sides of biotechnology and bioengineering. And every presentation out of Russia find some thoughts in my heart and my brain, because I can imagine the possible collaborators. I can see the main universities, institutions of Russian Federation, which could be the partners for these beautiful projects. And as I have said in my presentation, we have different instruments, fundings, which could support such R&D projects. So I think that the main condition to be successful in this way is to find new collaborators in such events. So we have to be open, and thank you very much. Thanks to the organizers for us to have the opportunity to see each other, even in the situation when our borders are closed. So thank you very much, and I'm very hopeful that our countries will find new connections after this conclave, and maybe we should make an agreement to make some more specific events, maybe in agriculture, biomed technologies. So this way we can be closer, and maybe it will be more effective in finding some new collaborators. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dmitry Kolikov. Yes, you're absolutely right that we should utilize this forum for our potential future collaborations between SCO nations, especially in these challenging times where collaborative effort is the need of the hour and is the way forward to tackle all the problems, not only for SCO nations but for the whole of the earth. So now I would like to hand over the floor to Dr. Venkat Mohan for his comments on the presentations and opening up the session for networking. Dr. Mohan.
Thank you, Aman, for it's a very wonderful session. All the presentations are excellent and very specific to some of the important areas, particularly with reference to the propagation of plant tissue culture, as well as some bioeconomy with reference to biofuel production and drug delivery systems and natural products extraction from marine sources. And to mention a few, and there are very important areas which needs to be considered for collaboration among SCO countries. And most of the presentations, they have a specific target towards TRL levels. About most of the 60% of the presentations can go very near to commercialization, as we can see from the presentation. So I wish this session will give a good impetus for collaboration for coming next 10 to 20 years with a proper roadmap in biotechnology and bioengineering team. Thank you.
So next, I would like to invite Dr. Arumugam to share his vision about the potential collaborations and how the SCO nations can impact the global bioeconomy.
Thank you. I think this is a wonderful session and, covered multiple areas in the biotechnology and the bioengineering. And most of these are all, as Dr. Venkatamohan said, these are all commercial value and commercial platform development opportunities are there. So I do see actually, a couple in, especially I'm very impressed with some of the biomedical application projects being discussed here. One of them is basically about, how that low cost antibody purification platform being described here. It's very impressive. Another one was basically a small point of care device to purify the plasma platelets. I think these are all some of the techniques, certainly by having a collaborations with the other countries can take it into the next stage, because these to take it a commercial stage require more development. I think input from other nations and other scientists or maybe industries will help to take this platform further.
Thank you, Dr. Arumugam. So to initiate the networking session, I would like to ask a question about the involvement of various young scientists. Question to Dr. Arumugam about involvement of various projects and their potential impact in biotech industry. How these projects can be involved in the industry. What are your thoughts about their technology readiness levels to be coming to whether they are at the POC stage, proof of concept stage, or they are what kind of level they are? What do you think they are at?
So certainly a lot of opportunities are there for these platforms being discussed here. So as I said, it is basically needs more refinement of these technologies to make it commercialization. So for that, so probably these type of technology commercializations, they may require more industry participation as well. So especially that the last session, the micropropagation technique, it's already been commercialized. So already actually they are now producing plants and supplying to the farmers, and they can take it to the private partnership. They can large scale production can be started. But whereas the other technologies being discussed require more research and more development activities. But certainly I do see that a lot of market potentials are there, and these technologies are really that revolutionize some of the areas. So one of them, as I said, it is the protein purification. I discussed with him as well. So probably that will be a cheaper option, as well as maybe, I'm not sure whether we can make it a little quicker way of making this purifying those proteins or antibodies. So certainly, yes, I do see a lot of commercial value and potentials on these topics being discussed in this forum.
Thank you, Dr. Arumugam, for your insights. So, as Dr. Arumugam mentioned about the commercialization of the products from Dr. Zishan's lab, I would like to invite Dr. Zishan to comment on what are his ideas to take this into the commercial partnership forward about the production of banana plants from the tissue culture. And are there any potential collaborations that he can look in, that he can envision right now on the SCO platform? Over to you, Dr. Zishan. Dr. Zishan, do you want to comment? All right. I think he's having some issues getting online. So maybe then I'll invite Dr. Chang Wang to on the floor to discuss his ideas about the potential collaborations among the SCO nations, and if there are any exciting ideas that he would like to share. Dr. Chang Wang, would you like to come on the floor? Looks like he is not online. So moving on to Dr. Snehasis Bhakta.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
I think this is a great platform, and I think for us, like young scientists, it's a great. I think it will we learn a lot of. I'd like to, in my presentation, I discussed few new projects that I want to carry forward, and I want to improve also a few of my projects I discussed. So one of the thing actually I was talking on the presentation, like how the material I prepared using molecular imprinting. So just a totally material based, and it's a nano material. So we used magnetic core. So that actually helps for the separation. So sir asked the question like how quick we can separate. So it's a magnetic nanoparticle. So it's a super paramagnetic. So just you add your human serum and add your particles, and it will separate in maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute. So that quick, that is that quick. So coming to the point, like what are the proposals if I get any opportunity for collaboration? So there are really good research groups here. So like Russia and China. So I look forward to contact with them and look for some collaborative projects in this with this SCO AOISC scheme. So one of the things is that I would like to work. So I work different. I mainly synthesized protein binding nanoparticles, protein binding nanomaterials. Magnetic. It could be magnetic, or it could be you can make anything like on silica nanoparticles also. So one of the major problem in proteomics, again, the proteomics is that where the important low abundant proteins, like say for example, cancer biomarker PSA or IL-6. So you want to detect that. So first step in proteomics, they do even in the hospital, they do that, they deplete high abundant protein. So what are the high abundant proteins? Human serum albumin and IgGs. IgGs are simple globulin or antibodies. So I worked only one protein. So in one of my projects that we published in Chemical Communications. So what we did is that we depleted human serum albumin from human serum approximately around 88%. So my plan is to deplete more human serum albumin and IgGs around 95% so that we can industrialize the product. So if there's a possibilities, I'm very open to collaborate. So in case if someone is interested, mainly I am looking for help in terms of the development of some material, column-based material, or even as I told that I have very limited resources. So I have all the ideas and I know how to make those product, but right now I have very limited resources. So any resources would be very helpful. And I have really good energetic team over there. So that will be very helpful. And another thing, as I told that there is always chance to improve the quality of the material. Say, for example, when we submitted the patent to and Thermo Fisher actually got interested. So they told like, yeah, the thickness is approximately if I tell around 7 to 8 nanometer. But if you look at the HC, the crystalline region of antibodies, this is approximately 2-3 nanometer. So it is little thicker. So if we can make very thin film, so that will help. That will help a lot. So that is another thing I would like to work. And plus, in the detection biosensor strategy, I'm looking for some monomers which are having some chlorophyll group. And so in the technology, molecular imprinting, as I discussed, like it can create the scaffold with the memory of the template. So if we can have something like fluorophore monomer, then if we just simple fluorescence spectroscopy, we can detect. So but those are the things I'd like to to have collaboration, and maybe I look forward in future. And that's it from my side. If you have any questions and anybody need any clarification, I can discuss it further. So these are the few projects at this point I'm thinking of. So what do you say?
Any comments from any of the young scientists? Okay, so can I ask you one question, Dr. Snehasis?
Yes.
Have you also thought about the delivery of these hybrid proteins? Maybe inside like what Dr. Ovshinnikova is doing about the liposome encapsulated peptide delivery inside the cells. So do you think that is a potential way to move forward about the drug delivery as well? Maybe
Yeah.
Dr. Ovshinnikova can also pitch in into this.
Yeah, definitely there are opportunities. I mean, I worked in my first postdoc at Northeastern University, Boston. So there I tried to do drug delivery in osteoarthritis. So, you know, in osteoarthritis, there's a problem of drug delivery because there is no blood vessel. So what we tried actually, we tried to make hydrogels out of this molecular imprinting and try to encapsulate the drugs, dexamethasone, mainly glycocorticoids, actually drugs, and try to deliver that over there. So we got little success, but at the same time, what we found is that the barrier, it is a very thick material and it's a highly negatively charged material, you know, in the cartilage. Even the blood-brain barrier you are talking about. So that is also very it's a viscous media, and it's very difficult to deliver there. So in that way, I can think of if we can make something positively charged nanocarriers or like with the molecular imprinting and make some hydrogel. And I know a few groups are trying, like in UC Irvine, Dr. Dr. Michael Markin, actually, he's trying, and then he's trying to do that. So even I thought about that and tried, but I think in future, if I get opportunity, definitely I'll try that in the drug delivery world. Definitely there is opportunity on this, using this technology to deliver in different areas.
Thank you, Dr. Snehasis. Can I invite Dr. Ovshinikova to the floor about her ideas and for the future collaborations? Dr. Ovshinikova. All right. I think we'll move on to the next participant, Dr. Natalia. Okay, I think she will be connecting in some time. Maybe we can invite Dr. Ramesh about who can talk about his collaborations into the avenues for with various SCO countries, maybe with the nations which have huge coastlines like Russia or China, including India as well, and tapping into the diversity of marine resources and looking forward to the various different materials which can be captured from differences in the coastline. Dr. Ramesh, do you want to take over the floor?
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, can you be a bit little clear? Your voice is muffled.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Just okay?
slightly
Hello?
better. Yeah, go ahead,
Okay.
please.
Yeah. So as I presented, Russia is one of the major country. They are doing a great research in bioluminescence work. So the presentation by Laila also emphasized the importance of the Nanolog luciferase in the bioimaging studies. So I'm particularly interested to collaborate on the bioimaging studies to detect the various cancer propagations in mice models. So apart from that, I'm interested to collaborate with the pigmented compounds and their anti-cancer activities against different cancer cell lines. So SCO countries, those who are interested to do doing these anti-cancer studies and bioluminescence studies are welcome to have collaboration through my project. Yeah.
So, Dr. Ramesh, I would like to add that there are a couple of institutes in Russia which are actively working on the marine biology.
Yeah.
And also there has been a good like a very strong initiative from Government of India into the into marine biology, where they are trying to set up new labs in Andamans and in Goa as well. So if you can identify a few specific places, do you think that would be useful for the kind of research that you want to do for testing out in vivo for the compounds that you are extracting?
Yeah, that's also great.
So do you have any details about any of the institutes in any of the SCO nations, or do you want to look them up after this event?
After this conclave, I just want to have the follow-up because I don't know much about their research activities.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I would like to add that we have a comprehensive list of various institutions, and you can utilize this SCO platform to look into the details of various research institutions from all the SCO nations and look for your potential collaborators.
Yeah, sure.
And that's the whole point of the having this conclave, that we engage into strong collaborations. And so, yeah, that will be really useful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh.
Thank you.
Can I invite Dr. Vijay Lakshmi to talk about her biomedical microfluidic devices and possible collaborations that she, Dr. Vijay Lakshmi? Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, are you available? Okay. So,
Hello. Thank you for this opportunity.
yes. Yes, Dr. Vijayalakshmi, go ahead, please.
So I am looking. I am looking for the collaboration with SU Nation in the field of microfluidics and nanofluidics, especially working for microfluidic techniques for the healthcare purposes, such as especially I am right now in my PhD. I am working for the cell sorting. And recently, I am working for the separation of platelet-rich and platelet-poor plasma, and I'm want to collaborate with the similar type of the applications such as sorting of circulating tumor cells and fetal cell for the application of the various application in cancer and prenatal testing. Also, I am also interested in the drug delivery and drug discovery for the microfluidic systems.
Thank you, Dr. Vijayalakshmi. I believe not only the research, but also the application of these microfluidic devices will be very useful in the SCO nations, where the quick response or the quick data collection from the systems could be very useful and very crucial for quick response. The diagnostics are a huge challenge in SCO nations. So do you want to comment on,
Sure.
on this?
So that's why we are trying to convert our micro device as a point of care micro device for various coagulation tests, which are generally done in the lab, which take approximately 2 to 3 hours. It's a minimum time they are taking. So we are trying to make a chip on which we can put a few microliter of blood and we can test at the same time. So we are looking for such type of micro devices.
And do you have any particular roadmap in mind for the commercialization or partnerships with private partners or public partners within the country or within the SCO nations?
Right now we are looking towards in India only, but we are also open to the SCO nations. As I know, like in Russia and China, there are several labs which are working for the microfluidics and nanofluidic micro devices. So it will be a great opportunity to collaborate with SCO nations.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Vijayalakshmi. Can I invite Dr. Zishan on the floor to discuss about his ideas of the banana culture and how he's impacting the nation that he has told about, and what are his future what are his foresight about taking this into a commercialization state?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me again. Sir, actually, banana crop is very important fruit, which is maybe more than 50% of total fruit banana is being used. Okay. The other thing is banana is a triplide plant, and new varietal development is very much difficult because there is no seed production in banana, right? So it is banana is facing many major issues. One of them I have discussed here, like banana bunchy top virus. Other issue is Fusarium oxysporum. There is a Panama disease. You may be aware of this. Well, Panama disease, there is no single variety which is resistant to Panama wilt or Panama disease. Okay, so as due to triplide plant, there is no flowering, there is no breeding program, and there is no diversity in banana. Not much diversity. The least diverse plant is there. That is Cavendish banana. Okay, so we are trying to produce Panama resistant plant as well. If this disease will spread, this will be just like a pandemic disease, and it will, cause major losses in the whole world in banana crop, because almost all the banana crop has same blood. So we are also having some collaboration with other SEO countries, nations. If anyone, any lab can have any germplasm which is resistant, so we want to collaborate with them, and we want to share the germplasm so that we can you know. So we can get that germplasm and can multiply and to distribute the farmer. So uh, this crop will not be at stake if such kind of germplasm can be obtained. So we are looking forward the collaboration with the SEO countries who are working on banana or having germplasm with them.
On engagement with industry to commercialize this on the scale.
Sorry, I didn't listen to you. What did you say?
So do you have any plans on engagement with the industry?
Sir, at early stage, we are not having a plan with industry because this fruit is being used directly, what I think. And I think no such kind of plan there. Only at this time, we just want to eliminate viral force, and we just want to introduce this technology, this technique to the farmers and to the private sector who can opt this.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Zishan. Now, is there any other young scientist who is available and want to take the floor? I would like to call again on Dr. Natalia. Is she there? Dr. Ovchinikova? Banzarak Seva? Right. So I would like to now invite the questions from the audience. If they have any questions, suggestions, or possible collaborations with any of our young scientists. So I would like to open the floor to all the audience. Can we have some questions from the audience? So I would like to call from our audience from the field of circular bioeconomy that how various fields can be connected. And for example, if we talk about the marine resources, are there any possibilities? Do you want to comment on the circular economy in the context of marine resources? Is there anyone who want to comment on that? Maybe Dr. Yeah.
I have a different question. It's about bioethanol. So I would want actually the respective speaker to comment on the ethanol economy and the feasibility of commercializing bioethanol and the feedstock that could be used for sustainable ethanol production.
Dr. Banzarak Seva. So Dr. Banzarak Seva is currently
Maybe
not available.
anybody from the panel could address this.
So maybe can I ask one of our chairpersons to comment on this?
Dr. Avanti, you were talking about techno-economic thing.
Yes, sir.
So,
and the feedstock that could be used for sustainable bioethanol, and what, in your opinion, could be the best feedstock for sustainable bioethanol production and its commercialization?
as far as feedstock is concerned, we can think about waste, biogenic waste, as well as agri biomass, which is being burned right now. The basic problem with both feedstocks are pre-treatment. If you are going for biogenic waste, there is no need for much of pre-treatment, but biomass requires significant pre-treatment to convert into sugars and then for fermenting into ethanol, when we talk about ethanol. So, but the most of the work so far happened is with biomass. And pre-treatment, significant work was done. And we also have seen one of the presentation from Russia on ethanol production and then converting to ethylene. So, but coming to biogenic waste, not much work was so far reported on ethanol production. But I can see a lot of potential by using biogenic waste as a feedstock for ethanol production, so that the total cost of production can be reduced significantly. At present, the most of the cost is because of pre-treatment, which is happening during the initial stage of them. So if some kind of interventions done during that stage in order to reduce the cost with respect to enzymes or catalysts, so that will have significant viability when biomass is being used. That is hope here.
I would like to ask about deep sea resources. Do we have any policies or any government regulations to connect, to make it a circular economy with other industries from the resource obtained from seas or like oceans?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there are many restrictions to explore the deep sea resources or coastal resources, especially in this current situation. The coastal diversity has declined because of huge harvest from different coastal regions for various applications. Not only researchers, but also the people, local people harvesting them for ornamental purpose and for biotechnology purpose. They're exploring like anything. So coastal diversity is being declined. That is why now the current research are focused on the microbes, which are renewable resources, and you can explore them anytime and throughout the year. So they are sufficient enough to utilize for our purpose, food and drug purpose. So not only from the coastal areas, but also from the deep sea regions, we can explore these microbes for wide applications. Since many of, as you asked your question, there are many species now currently being put under red list. So we are not supposed to collect them, and there are many other species that are under scheduled species. So we are not going to explore anymore in the near future.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Ramesh, I have one question.
Yes.
So regarding the cultivation, once you find that some interesting compound is you are able to extract, identify that have potential medical applications. So how to go about the cultivation? So that particular either like bacteria is easy to do, but other than that, how can we go for cultivation at commercial scale?
We have actually currently now in NIO we have 12-liter bioreactors. So with that only we can go. That is a maximum scale we can produce. But beyond that, if we want to commercialize particular pigment with the anti-cancer activity, then we have to cross the more than 12 liters. So that is not as sufficient enough to work in this institution. So we should have the proper connections with the other countries who are having highly large-scale production setup.
That can be one area where we can look into collaboration from SCO.
Yes.
I hope you have collected all the cultures from yourself with the deep sea exploration.
Those are the pigment bacteria I have collected from the coastal coral reef areas and the mangrove regions in the Andaman Islands. So in this, in the NIO, I am working on the deep sea microbes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, so I have actually one recommendation to Ramesh. Since you have a lot of experience in this marine bacterial, deep sea marine bacterial research, so you should actually collect as much as possible these organisms and keep these samples. And there are actually IICT itself, they have a huge compound management system. One can store it as a national, marine sample storage facility or something. Then that could be the best resource for the SEO countries, whatever the applications. For example, if somebody wants to screen those organisms against any other drug discovery perspective or something, they can actually use this. So that is one possibility. But the biggest challenge in the natural product chemistry is it would be difficult to produce in a large scale. As Dr. Venkatamohan was asking that, do you have any way or method to cultivate these organisms? But even if we cultivate the organism, the production cost would be very high. So eventually one has to look and explore the possibility of once if we know the active component, then it is possible to chemically synthesize those products. But still again, because this is a natural compounds, it's not that easy, but it is possible. To industrialize this one. So maybe you can just explore the possibility of creating a big biobank of these organisms as a national resource and share those informations and materials to the SEO country. That could be a potential collaboration opportunity.
Yeah, sure. During my postdoc, I have come to IICT for compound analysis and a few of the bioassays. So
they have actually a huge 1.2 million compound they can store. But right now, actually, in my understanding, they have only 40,000 compounds. Still, a lot of space is there to store.
Okay.
Can I add a word, please? Can I add something? I can see that Ramesh's presentation generated the most extensive discussion, maybe because it was very good illustrated. Ramesh's pictures was wonderful, and listening your discussion, I remember maybe the Severtsov Institute of Ecology and Evolution of Russian Academy of Sciences can be a possible collaborator for Ramesh. I think you should know somebody from this honorable institution of Russian Academy of Sciences. And if you not yet, please pay your attention to this institution. It's quite well, and I think you can find the collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Kuliko. Thank you so much.
So one more comment actually I would like to make that the presentations of Dr. from Russia. So that is basically very, very interesting, especially, I'm coming from a drug discovery background. The way actually she was describing about targeted delivery of, large molecule to the target using exosomes, especially genetically engineered exosome, it's quite interesting. So the only challenge what I do see is producing these exosomes is also a lot of quite challenging aspects are there. So maybe she can actually think of collaborating with some of the drug discovery companies, how we can actually commercialize the technology. So probably from my understanding is looks like that exosomes can be engineered to any of the receptor protein. Then you can target any type of cells. Then load the whatever the material, whether it's a chemical or large molecule, to the exosome and deliver it. But the big challenge is the whatever the exosomes you produce, whether all the exosomes will carry the load that's a drug inside the exosomes or not. There's a big challenge, but there are a lot of research is going on, and some of the from our company, actually, we are actually working on developing one of the exosomes for drug delivery for one of the company based in US. So right now there is a lot of opportunities there in that area. So she can actually look into collaborating with the SEO countries, the drug discovery companies. So they may be interested in that area.
So actually, I would like to comment on Dr. Arumugam's point on collaborating with drug discovery companies, and maybe Dr. Kulikov can pitch in with this. So I myself, I'm a founder of a drug discovery company where we have set up a platform for, it's a novel in vivo drug screening platform based on artificial intelligence and machine learning, where we look at the phenotypic markers of various degenerative diseases. And so how do you, what do you envision that we can engage, how we can engage with the industry? And maybe Dr. Kulikov can comment on how, what are the policies of engagement with on the Russian counterpart about the IP sharing with drug discovery process in the drug discovery industry, because pharma is a big stronghold of Russia as well, along with India.
Thank you. So in the presentation of Dr. Kumar Arumugam, it was some very informative slides with information about how the drug industry increases in India. I think that in Russia we have similar trends, but the amount and the power of Russian drug discovery companies, I think not as big as in India. So I used to work in a department of clinical research in a big clinical institution, and our most counteragents were from big pharma, international big pharma. So in Russia we have, as maybe in all the world, we have really strict regulations, which and to undergo these regulations it's a big challenge for every researcher, because from the idea to the practical realization of a new drug, we have to spend millions of rubles and years. And in Russia we have the similar pathways as all over the world. But in a clinical part, sometimes we have more stricted laws. So a lot of scientists from fundamental area don't want to work in this field. They just want to discover a new molecule, and then they don't know how to sell it to the big pharma company. So, and the big part of the research stop in the fundamental stage. So I think it's a big problem.
So, Dr. Kulikov, that's exactly what my company does. We are trying to accelerate the drug discovery process using very affordable new technologies, where we can have phenotypic screening, basically in vivo, for the debilitating disorders, including neurological disorders or muscular dystrophies, which have a high footprint in all the countries, whether they are developed or developing countries. And still, the pharma industry, because of the lack of any good drug or with great efficacy in the last few decades, the pharma industry is now sort of little apprehensive of taking into this direction. But what we do over in our company is that we have a very affordable system to test out multiple molecules, multiple drugs on a very quick scale. We are talking about the scale which is almost 1/10 to 1/15 of the current state of the art systems. And using our cutting edge technology, we can go for possibly more efficacious systems. We are establishing the we have established the proof of concept and now validating our system with the pharma industry standards. So do you think there would be a possibility of collaborations along with the various Russian counterparts from the academic point, or would the people, would the scientists in Russia be open to sharing the IP strategies with industry outside Russia?
My personal opinion that, of course, the scientists will be opened, but medical society, clinicians, it's a very, very conservative society. And because of the high price of the mistake in this field, I think that 2 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, nobody will be honestly opened for such a collaborations. But now all we understand that we have to make the time between idea and drug shorter. It should be cheaper. And I think that today is the best time to start such a collaborations. And in Russia, not only in Moscow and St. Petersburg, but also in Novosibirsk, Kazan, Vladivostok, we have good biomedical centers, consortiums between clinical institutions and scientific institutions and universities, which will be happy to collaborate in this field. And our government pays a lot of attention for the healthcare system, for its moderating, growing up, and it's very important. And I think a lot of it's a big figure in Russia. I mean, a lot of labs, institutions will be happy to start this collaboration. And maybe today's event will help us to find some collaborators for your company. And maybe, and I hope it will be a wider collaboration between you and me, for example.
Yeah, of course. We just want to initiate, or let's say this platform is just a process of catalyzing the collaborations, not only between two counterparts, but multilateral collaboration should come out of this forum. Absolutely. Thank you.
So we have to start, and today is a good day to start this way, because we have a great background. It's and I think everything will be okay.
Certainly. Thank you, Dr. Kulikov. I will be in touch with you to get further networking links. And I would like to ask Dr. Arumugam about his comments on the idea of collaboration between startups and GVK Biosciences, or the more established biotech industry on a broader picture level. That how do they engage with the other industries or academia, and what are their ideas about IP sharing mechanisms between the industry and academia, and industry collaborations, not only within India but across member states of SCO nations?
Sure. Actually, right now the major challenge the drug discovery is facing is translating from in vitro to the in vivo. So generally the practice is you do some biochemical screening or cell-based screening of the compounds, then based on the efficacy in the in vitro studies, then do some DMPK activities for the whether the drugs are bioavailable or not, or its ADME properties. Then directly, normally people, they take it to the animal models. Now the problem is when all the screenings are done in the protein level, the protein is already exposed. Now when you actually give the drug in the animal, it has to go to the oral and it has to penetrate the intestine. It has to go to the site of action. So that is very different environment. The in vitro is basically just an enzyme. For example, if you're screening a compound which inhibit the enzyme, so you have a purified enzyme, a compound can directly act on that easy. You will get an activity. So in the cell-based assay, yes, the compound has to penetrate the cells. That's it. That's what maximum you can do in the in vitro. But what is missing now is, what is that a phenotypic screening or more translatory assay one can do that will translate your in vitro to the animal models. So that's where actually a lot of companies are focusing, and there are a lot of 3D models or any other phenotypic screenings would be very welcome. If you have a technology, if you have a method, if you need to validate that method, for example, so certainly companies are open. Drug discovery companies are open to help and validate. In case if you have a validated method, then if you are trying to provide a service, then drug discovery companies are very open to look that platform and screen their compound. So this opportunity is not only with the small companies, this opportunity is there with large pharma companies. Of course, it is basically in the SEO countries, we do not have a large pharma companies, but at least, since I am coming from a CRO perspective, so in India and China, there are so many CROs. So they offer screening services, drug screening services. Now, if you think that your technique is unique, then certainly you can showcase, and a lot of potentials are there. And I'm sure actually a lot of people would love to use this platform and move forward with this compounds, because end of the day we need an assay that is more concrete data it has to provide, right? So in that case, so you need to validate. These are all the known compounds, tested compounds. We have actually profiled, and out of 10 compounds, we were able to, all 10 compounds, you would be able to successfully screen and got a positive outcome, or maybe 90% success rate. Still, it is a good one. So certainly, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Arumugam.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
I'm completely agree with Dr. Kumar Arumugam. And I have to say that in Russia, we also have a big amount of CRO companies, and they are more and more professional from year to year. And every researcher should know that drug discovering companies, CROs, are not the enemies, they are supporters. And some of young scientists think that they should create something and to hold it into the box. That's a big mistake, because CROs are our helpers, and we should see them, and we should conduct some more connections between R&D departments of university, academical society, and of CRO all over the world. Because, for example, in Russia, we have big CRO companies from US, Germany, China, India, and we also have small CROs from Russia. So creating new connections between CRO and drug companies and research departments, we can create a really good network for practical needs of medical workers and patients, of course. So thank you.
Thank you,
Dr. Rahman. Can I add one thing?
Yes, please.
So I have this question to Dr. Prem Kumar. So the thing is that is a very interesting thing you told, just that you can screen drug in CROs. Actually, I'm not from industry and I never had any industrial experience. So my question is like, say for example, I have designed something and I got some results in the lab. So at what point I should contact some CROs? Say for example, for osteoarthritis, so I have some drug conjugate for with the avidin protein, so avidin and dexamethasone, and also some multi-arm 8-arm pig and dexamethasone conjugate. So we have tested like whether it can be, it can go to that point where it can be useful, like it, or it can sustain some time. So could you please elaborate like what point should we contact industry and how we should proceed about that? So that will be very helpful for us. Thank you.
So any point actually, these companies, they offer service from, from the designing the compound or synthesizing the compound, screening the compounds in the in vitro, in vivo. So all preclinical studies, majority of the CROs, they provide the services. If you have a proof of concept study, we have done, we have a compound, we did some cell-based screening. So we see that some anti-cancer activity with this compound. We need to take it further. So certainly, actually, these CROs can help because they have a unique platform and specific specialized therapeutic area. There are a lot of assays or models are built in that one. So you can actually enter, you can actually approach them at any stage. So they have from actually, for example, the company where I'm from is basically we can, as I said, we can design the compound, we can synthesize the compound, we can actually even synthesize proteins, antibodies, new antibodies. We can actually we can bring, we can screen from hybridoma clones. Then we can take it further. Actually, we can take it till the clinical stage. So like that, there are so many service providers are there. So you can enter, you can actually approach them at any stage. But unfortunately, these CROs are all work for on cost basis. So as of now, it is there is, in my opinion, at least in India, so there is no opportunity for the academic and industry collaborate for scientific reasons. So you can work, but you have to pay for that work. So this is what it is. But you can also think in India, so we have a BIRAC. So through BIRAC, if you have some compounds or something, if you have a proof of concept, for BIRAC to get a funding, you need a proof of concept. And with that, you can get a funding along with the industrial partner, the CRO partner, and certainly you can move forward. Similarly, I'm sure there will be a lot of opportunities would be available, funding opportunities would be available with other SEO countries also to collaborate. So you can actually look into that one.
Sure, thank
But
you.
yes, certainly you can collaborate with the CROs through BIRAC funding.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
I would like to invite more questions oriented towards industry from our young scientists, as most of them they are from academic background. Okay, sorry. So I would like to invite most of all of our young scientists to direct any questions towards from the industrial perspective towards Dr. Arumugam, as most of the young scientists are from the academic background. If there are any questions or any queries about engagement with the industry, please go ahead.
I have another question, one more question. So
Yes.
anybody can actually answer. So thing is that, say for example, industry. So say for if the work already been published, okay. So is that a problem for filing patents, or say for example we do some study with CROs and got some new result, but the main finding was already published. So is that a problem to file the patent or anything?
So you are talking about the patent that you need to make with a published work, yeah?
Yes, right.
So once you publish, then you cannot make a patent because it was open. So before you publish, you have to make a provisional patent, and then immediately after getting the number, you can publish it. Then there will not be any problem. Like it will take almost 1 month of time. In the meantime, you can prepare the manuscript. So once you publish, then you cannot go with the patent. Always that will come when searching is there.
Okay, sure. And if say for example, some this protein depletion work. Say for example, we published with 86%, but now the new findings got like say for example 95%. So it's a new finding. So we can. So what are the possibilities in new findings on the similar type of work?
Yes. Yeah. Specifically, the new findings you have to highlight, and that invention you have to patent.
Okay, sure.
The other things, 80%, you should not get into this one, where the novelty of that 20% has to be highlighted, and then you can patent it.
Thank you.
So, if I believe Snehasi's also had a question about engagement with the industry if the main finding is already published. So, how open the industry would be for working on similar paths if the main findings are already published and are not patentable? Is that correct, Snehasis?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. That is also one of my queries. Thank you.
That should not be a problem. I don't see any problem that, whether you have a published and you want to work with the industry, already published, and based on that publications only, we are actually, taking forward that work. So I don't see any issue, and that's how it is usually, right? So the published work is like a proof of concept study. Then based on that publications, you want to do further more study to advance the compound or molecule. So certainly it is, that's not an issue. So you can work.
Thank you.
Hello, I have a question, sir.
Yes, we have a question from the audience.
Yeah.
Dr. Rana.
Yeah. So biomass valorization is a key and emerging research which is coming. Here, in this regard, I want to know the inputs from the experts that the role of biotechnology in building circular economy, especially with respect to the agri-waste based biorefinery systems.
It's from me.
So
it's
yes,
from
sir.
me.
Yes, sir.
Circular economy, particularly with respect to agri-waste, it is one of the emerging area because most of the SCO countries, particularly China, Pakistan, India, they have huge agri-waste, which is coming every annually. So right now, the bioeconomy industry is looking into this as a feedstock and trying to produce fuels and chemicals. The only issue is the economic viability. So many of the process is required intense chemicals or enzymes, expensive enzymes, or some kind of multiple treatments. So innovative technologies are very essential if you want to go for high value chemicals or high value or fuels. Apart from anaerobic digestion or composting. Anaerobic digestion, composting are a very matured process, but in order to go towards more advanced state, like towards production of like ethanol or some other ethylene or some kind of chemicals from many chemicals from biomass, valorization, lignin, xylose, xylitol, glucose, many things. Renewable chemicals are very upcoming area. So that needs very, very intensive research. At present, most of the research will be mapped between TRL2 to TRL5. It has to extend beyond TRL5 and go towards technically, economically, as well as technically viable process for commercialization.
I have a question for Mohammed Zishan. Is he available?
I think he's not available. You can pose your question.
Okay, my question was this, that he talked to eradicate the Panama disease caused by the fungi Fusarium oxysporum. So generally the chlamydospores stay in the soil itself. So it's very difficult to remove the soil. And indeed we have to apply fungicides for that. So is there any biological control way of controlling the Fusarium? Biological method of controlling Fusarium? Because chlamydospores reside in the soil, it's very difficult to remove the spores.
Dr. Zishan is not available. Is there anyone from the young scientists or the experts who would like to comment on this?
I think nobody.
So maybe we will post your question to Dr. Zishan directly, and he can comment on this later on.
You can post in chat box to Ishan specifically, so he can respond to that.
Yeah. So you can use the chat box in the networking lounge to ask this question directly to Dr. Zishan. So any further questions to the experts or the young scientists? So if not, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our chairs, Dr. Venkat Mohan and Dr. Prem Kumar Arumugam, along with our thematic lead expert, Dr. Kulikov, to have for having a very fruitful discussions and giving us insights about how to move forward with the potential networking collaborations between SCO nations and the strengths and possibilities of having multilateral projects in future between the young scientists on the SCO platform. And we will now meet at 5:15 after a break. So before that, a final thing, what I would like to discuss is that we need one of the young scientists from the biotechnology and bioengineering team to make a presentation on Friday 28th for the final thematic presentations and for the joint presentation on synergetic thematic perceptions of the young scientists. So are there any young scientists available right now who would like to take up this opportunity?
Definitely. I have a few projects. At the same time, I can, if somebody wants to discuss with me, we can have few joint projects and the thematic on biotechnology and bioengineering and come up with some proposal.
You have to discuss with your young scientist in this form, and you have to come up with a perspective on SNT in this theme, and you have to propose a roadmap for next 20 years, how to go with the collaboration as well as the research. So you can also choose one more co-presenter from the team, and you have to make an active discussion among the chat box or mails and then come up with the presentation.
Sure.
That is all.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And we will now. So thanks to the experts and the thematic lead for this very exciting discussion. Thank you.
All right, everybody. So we are going to take a small break of 10 minutes. We're going to be here sharp at 5 o'clock to have another session done. Till then, thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. Thank you so much, Chairs. Thank you, everyone.